welcome to Crucibles. My name's G Clav, and we have Rally here. How are you doing, Rally?
Good day today for Heroes. A lot of players that don't quite intimately know in terms of we are all
Of course.
of course the so we're all going to do some new things today. I talked a bit with the green commentators with more global loop, and they say that it might not be like that. Things exclusively unfortunately, this time around, it might be a bit more competitive, and we'll undoubtedly talk more about these challenger teams coming up.
That's right, we have challenging teams coming up. Today we'll have one best of 7 and another best of 7 coming up right tomorrow. We will actually have full series tonight, all 7 games. We actually have to play through all maps because basically 7 maps, that's all we have, right? Without the pins, yeah.
I guess you could argue that maybe
I don't think so, and these players we are yet to know. I'm yet to know. I don't actually know all the players. Like I know Demi, Pro Team, they are here lead oftentimes. What they tend to play, what they like to play, and how they like to troll sometimes.
Sometimes.
we know these players like by playing by their stream sometimes, but in competitive, seems like they have been doing so well. They came through, of course, winners. Did not win the Open Division playoff. They actually got second, so they had to face RRR here as we go into the Crucible match.
Rule set for the Crucibles, but
Okay, so the first place from the Open Division playoff actually got to choose the team between Raven and RRR who they want to face against, and V0 who we will be playing tomorrow. As you can see at the bottom, picked Raven, so winners had to go against RRR, which I think could be a better match for RRR. I think winner is definitely a very strong team, but RRR still, after entire season of HGC, they have improved so much.
And I really think that's an interesting decision from ReZero to select Raven because, you know, Raven and RR, they each traded 1 win and 1 loss in the regular season last phase. And if you think about their strengths and weaknesses, it's pretty obvious that Raven is the more mechanically talented team. But RR generally takes their matches a bit more seriously, practices a bit more, so they have a bit more synergy across the board. So overall, my general thoughts process when it comes to evaluating how Open Division teams will do against first division teams is that generally they might stand toe-to-toe mechanically, but not strategically. So I think it might backfire for R30 to have him pick Raven.
Well, let's see. I think if you go back to the first Crucible of the year, it really came down with the rotation, the basic rotation, the timing, when to go invade the camp's timing. Those timings really made a big difference, and the snowball really started from the very beginning. But as we have the winners, as oftentimes I was also confused when I saw that for the first times. They're winners and they're still playing. What's going on, guys? I'm pretty sure some of you guys are still confused why RR was versing winners already if they won, but they are called the winners. So we have them, but I don't know if they're going to win after tonight. I'm pretty sure RR still seems like the favorite to me, Rally.
Yeah, and, you know, speaking about the team name, over in League of Legends, we also had a first division team called Ever8 Winners, and they also didn't win very much. They were rarely winners, so maybe it has something to do with the name, I don't know. Hopefully it will work out for them today.
Well, let's see. Here we have the familiar faces for the fans, for the viewers here. I know you guys are missing the guitar sound, but here we have RRR, Kong, ETT, Odog, MSG, and take a look here on this. Not on the screen because he's hidden by the monitor of Kong, which is risen, which is like on top of everything else right there.
Perhaps not the best angle for the camera setup to show the players' faces, but it certainly looks a bit more engaging, I guess. They usually have a higher camera angle, I think, but today it looks a bit lower, so maybe some adjustments going on in the Invent studio.
Yeah, and also this is how we look, guys, without the makeups, and I know we look awesome all the time, but it's so much more without all the like artificial stuff on our faces, you know? Right? Are you trying to disagree? No, please say yes.
I don't know, but like the lights here are actually far more brighter than what we usually use in the OGN studio. I'm not like saying that it's better or worse, but it sort of compensates for the lack of makeup maybe. So, you know, a lot of trickery going on here. Don't believe anything on screen, boys.
Oh man, and let's see. Oh man, let's see. Riley Jaffa, speak into the mic. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I guess. Okay, now we can actually hear ourselves. So we know the audio level, guys. So it's a lot better. And we should be jumping into some of the interviews before the match. We'll have some interviews, some crazy things, some really exciting things, and then the match, of course. It takes some time for us to talk about some random things, of course, but we do have to talk about the patch. I believe it's still the Ana patch for the Crucible because it was supposed to happen last weekend, but there was a long 10-day, I guess, Korean Thanksgiving week, the entire week, plus the 2 weekends in front and back. So I think that's the reason why we moved the Crucible to this weekend, and it's still going on at the same patch though.
Yeah, and talking about the long holiday, well, I enjoyed the holiday. I'm pretty sure you did too. But for these players, man, that couldn't have exactly been in holiday, right? Because one of the most important matches of their professional or wannabe professional careers are going to be held today. And I imagine that most of the teams will have spent a lot of their holiday just scrimming, practicing, grinding out their mechanics in Hero League. So a lot of sacrifice, well, if you can call it that, going into this series.
Yep, I'm pretty sure they did lots of practice, and even on some social media, HGC was saying there has been some patch switches, but we're back on the Ana patch. Seems like we will have less changes compared to before. Like I believe we still played on Ana patch with Ana disabled. I think that stays the same. I've heard that Ana is still disabled, so no banana for tonight, guys. I'm sorry, but we do have an interview. Let's go get to meet the captains of each team very soon. We'll be on the screen. And Riley, would you do me a favor?
What?
Do you know what I'm going? You know what I'm going to ask though.
What do I have to translate?
Let's do half and half.
Okay.
Do you want to do half and half? Which player do you want to choose?
You can do the first one.
Do you want to choose first one, the first player? Okay.
No, you can do the first one. I'll follow after.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's see. I think we are about to jump in, as we see on the screen, and Caster Che, just his closing comments here, as we do have Rush and EZZ. I believe Rush.
안녕하세요. 위너스 팀 팀장 러시입니다.
Hello, I'm Rush from Team Winners.
오늘 컨디션
How's your shape right
너무
now?
좋아요.
Oh, feels very good. I think our conditions are pretty normal. I know there are lots of strategies, but is there something special for tonight?
하기보다 그냥 탄탄하게 준비 잘한 것 같고.
Well, nothing special, but I think we
공격할 땐
had lots of
공격하고
practices.
수비할 땐 단단하게 막으면서 잘 해볼게요.
When we have to go in offensive, we will make an offensive move. But when we have to switch to defense, we will do the defense and try to work our way through.
후회하지 않을 경기 그냥 최선 다해가지고
We just
각자
wanna
1인분
play our best
하면서
today and
이기고 싶어요.
make no regrets after playing tonight. All right, that's the words coming out from Rush. Round of clap from the audience. We do have live audience. And let's switch the mic over to EZZ and Rally. Take it over.
네, 안녕하세요. RRR 팀의 팀장 이즈라고 합니다.
Hello, I'm the RR captain EZZ. How do you feel tonight?
똑같은 것 같아요. 평상시랑.
Not too different from usual. Pretty much the same.
하나도 없어요.
Did you have any troubles heading into tonight's match? No, none at all.
네, 그렇게 해석하셔도 될 것 같아요.
Same response.
분위기가 정말 좋을 거고 이제 오늘 잔류냐 이제 강등이냐 이제 운명의 대결이 기다리고 있는데 각오 한마디 들어보겠습니다.
So you should have great synergy since
저희
you played together for an entire match. How do
일부에서는
you
비록
feel
성적이 별로 안
about tonight's
좋았지만
matches?
그래도 아직까지는 일부에 남아있을 실력이라고 생각합니다. 열심히 하겠습니다.
We haven't fared too well in the first division up until now, but we believe that our skill level is up on par and we deserve to stay in HGC, so we will do our best.
Wow. Okay. Well, there's a lot to defend for HGC spot. Of course, RRR they finished and the last place because of the points. Raven actually finishing in 7th, but that's kind of weird logically because the winner from the Open Division playoff actually chose the 7th place instead of the 8th place. Do you think that has to do with the rumors just going around the street, you know?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of ways to think about this. And of course, it's not about tonight's matches, so we won't talk about this for very long. But I think it has to do somewhat with the fact that Dekaluk is back with RRR. And, you know, if it was Phantom playing in Dekaluk's place, that you could argue that perhaps RR would have a slightly better mechanical ceiling, so to say. But, you know, Dekaluk coming back for the Crucibles ensures that RR will have much better synergy across the board because, of course, like, I believe that winners will look like a team as well in tonight's games, but the degree of practice, the amount of practice, and the dedication to practice that HGC teams have simply cannot be compared to the teams that are competing in the Open Division, particularly in the Korean Open Division. So,
yeah, so I think you summed that up pretty well. Of course, having your old teammate back, but Phantom did play really well on a support role for the first time offline on stage at OGN back there. But having your old men back, having your old support back, well, I guess you can somewhat go into tank sometimes still.
yeah, it's not decided yet, I believe.
Before we go into the match, I believe we'll see lots of double support still. That's still the meta in Korea. May change starting from BlizzCon a little bit. I'm hoping so. I hope we see a little bit less of double supports coming out from Korea, but that's still the meta. Usually Korea does not shift too quickly compared to the other regions, so I think we're going to see lots of double supports. And I think we are ready to jump into game number 1. Let's go take a look at the draft. It's going to be Dragonshire.
And as you were talking about, I believe that both of these teams will primarily stick to double support, and usually, like even in my HGC cast, I'm very critical of double support as a whole in general, at least to the degree that it's taking place in Korea right now, because it seems like virtually every team is just mindlessly drafting double support into every single map, into every single composition, oftentimes like first picking 2 supports in the first rotations, silly stuff like that. But for these teams, I want to give them a pass, mostly because, you know, double support is a useful crutch for when your team doesn't exactly know how to emulate the top teams in the business when it comes to macro rotations, when it comes to executing specific teamfight tactics. So overall, it would be wise for these teams to seriously consider double support going into the draft, but I believe that you would want to talk about the first ban from RR.
Oh. They actually banned Brightwing and picking up a solo lane. Okay, here's a big change because Gamey from Winners actually loves to play Sonya and he's really good at a top solo laner. So they want to remove that threat from the very beginning. Of course, Sonya, not just as a Korean pick, I believe we're going to see lots of Sonya coming out from BlizzCon also because she is still so strong right now in the meta.
And if we were to talk about the individual players on Winner's side, I believe the player with the most to talk about right now is Gamey, because if I remember correctly, he actually played the entirety of the Open Division this phase from Thailand because his family lives in Thailand. So he had to play with very bad internet, so bad that it caused him to sort of like lag out in some matches and call for a pause. But he made it through the Open Division despite that, and now he came to Korea, flew over to get a shot at the HGC.
Well, let's see. Winners. See, we do have a very different, I guess, not the meta overall, but slightly different in what they prioritize in the draft. You can basically see what HGC prioritize on the left side and what Open Division prioritize on the other side. Open Division, they like to prioritize lots of armors, lots of healing coming up from Morales. So Garrosh oftentimes comes out on top or in the middle, even banned in the middle sometimes. I think that's the difference we're watching here as we're just seeing common picks on the left.
So if we were get really exaggerated about things, then we could just call the draft on the right side that's going to take place sort of like the gold level, bronze level drafting that we go see here, but that's primarily because, you know, the Open Division features a lot more individual mistakes, a lot more bad decisions, and heroes such as Garrosh and Morales excel at compensating for and taking advantage of those kinds of bad decisions. You know, there isn't a better support than Morales when your teammates is mispositioning ever so slightly.
That's right.
And there isn't a better initiator than Garrosh when the opposition team is in the wrong place at the wrong time. So,
well, seems like we're having some themes coming out from RRR as even the double support when paired up with Sonya along with another source of DPS, the burst damage usually broke into the double support healing when there was especially sustains coming out and Uther banned from winners actually. Quite interesting.
I thought that was very odd too because usually considering that you have the first rotation in the second phase of the draft, you would probably want to take Uther here if you were looking for double support, but I guess you could take this in a number of different ways. I mean, I wouldn't be overly surprised to see something like a Stukov here, for example.
Just the Rhaegar, of course, Rhaegar did get some change with the chain heal, but still going to come out. I guess they're looking for some Ancestral. Garrosh already has the armor, and Morales will just sustain healing.
So winners going for what has become the extremely Korean, the very Korean standard draft here with 2 frontline tanks and 2 supports.
Stukov actually taken from RRR this time. They will have some silence and they will have sustain heal, but there's no burst heal, so they do need to be careful and make sure they get some kills when they're having the sound barrier, when Genji can just go swing in those blades along with Sonya. I think they need the burst. Which in case, if Rhaegar does not have the Ancestral on the right unit, I guess winner will just lose one and start to fall apart from that point on.
But definitely all of RR will have to be mechanically precise with their damage dealing because generally speaking, the setup that Winners has right now, huge amounts of healing, huge amounts of tankiness, and considering that RR's damage dealer is only limited to Genji and to half an extent Sonya, if Genji or Sonya misplays some of these fights, then they will automatically lose the 5v5 just simply due to attrition.
Well, we have all 10 heroes ready, locked in, and ready to go. We are in Dragonshire for game number 1. It is best of 7 between RRR and Winners. We are ready to jump into game number 1. Let's go into the Nexus.
And on the left side, we see RRR here.
10초 남았다.
Not the usual one.
Yeah, I was expecting some overlay with the
But Gamey on Garrosh on right, Russia and Lyric Troll came on Greymane.
I was not informed that we would not have a separate overlay, but
Wukong on Morales and KCB on the Rhaegar.
So overall, something to think about when we look at these two compositions on this particular map is that the fact that Winners has Rhaegar and Greymane both who could definitely take mercenary camps in a pinch by themselves, whereas RRR, it's only Sonya, and Sonya will mostly be held to the top lane. So that's going to net winners an advantage whenever they feel okay with heading over to the mercenary camp.
Let's see, RR will definitely have their lead in terms of rotation, but not if they get picked off like this. Oh, there's a sustain coming out from Morales. Even going to Rhaegar, actually.
Well, good execution from winners, nevertheless, and something that we should talk about when looking at RR's composition is that this is such an L5 comp, wouldn't you say? Like,
Yeah, hyper carry.
yeah, especially when you look at the Lucio plus the Stukov composition of double supports, this has been something that L5 has been running in almost every game that they could lay their hands on it. So I'm not so sold on RRR's ability to execute this composition to the same level.
Well, let's see, they are rotating pretty well, and something to mention that we saw lots of dropships happening from Morales, no stim drone. But maybe in this case, because Greymane solo has to deal to all the damage, I think we'll very likely to see stim drone. But even that, when that was the case, we saw lots of dropships, just so that Morales would actually survive the team fight. Just use the dropship as a tank. I guess tank role, I guess, in that way.
I mean, it's going to be really interesting which heroic Morales ultimately decides to go for here, because if you look at our composition, it has insane lockdown potential post 10, because you can cocoon one support, dive the other support with the Nubarak. Sonya can definitely follow up on that engage with the leap and the spear, and the Stook of Silence will be the icing on the cake. So against that, do you want to sort of preemptively have that medevac going on, or do you want to just accept your death as fate when it happens and instead just die happy knowing that you have given the stim drone to your brain?
Well, let's see. I think they need the stim drone in this case. Let's see, especially with that Anubarak on the other side. There will be a cocoon very likely to be on one of the supports, I think. Even on Greymane to just block all that damage for a few seconds of the team fight, which may be just enough for the Genji to just swing all that Dragon Blade, but hold on to that. We'll see some gank potential here. Tropium just playing with fire, just trusting his teammate. Oh, Morales in this case.
And we are already witnessing two of the things that we have talked about in the draft phase before we even headed into the game. First of all, we can see Rhaegar, as soon as the team has control of a lane, he can just head down into camp and clear it by itself, giving them a further snowballing advantage. And what we just saw in the engagement just there as well was that, you know, they don't have enough damage if Genji and Sonya aren't together.
Ooh, lots of his skills, and he seems to be in trouble also. 4v3 gank fails to do so, and we have shift for a second. But on that top lane, Sonya is actually not really winning the top lane against the Leoric.
So overall, the early phases of the game is panning out somewhat as we expected, but the true test of winner's composition will come obviously post level 10. So until then, I don't think Aura could make any proactive plays.
They're nice cancel. They were trying to get some. Okay, Lucio, take a look. Doing his job there, just canceling all the channeling. Seems like Leoric's actually landing on basically every single shot to having the lane over Sonya there. We didn't quite see what was going on at the time. I'm guessing that was the way.
Overall, I think R has been dealing with their obviously weaker early game in an admirable fashion. They successfully delayed the channeling of the Dragon Knights, also took back the top shrine again, it seems. No, not again. Getting chunked out by Leoric again.
And Sonya's not having the best time, and so Genji has to come in for the gank, and Rush will be going down. That's second kill into the game now.
Oh, this was an excellent rotation. Rush, obviously, not a lot he could have done there because he was pretty insistent in that they keep on the channels on top outer so that they could keep pressuring the Dragon Knight channel.
Hey, if you're like if you're playing the hero, you gotta use your trait, you know? It's worth it. If you end up not using your trait at all, I guess as a Tyrael or Leoric, you're nerfing your own hero in a way, I guess?
That's fair. Like, you want to utilize the full kit that Blizzard gave you. Overall, MSG doing an admirable job of, you know, keeping control of the top lane. Of course, that has been aided heavily by Genji's top gank just a minute ago. It's still great effort nevertheless. And, you know, Leoric is being piloted by Rush, and, you know, he streams a lot on Twitch, although he's not very well known. And one of his, you know, defining traits as a player, I personally found to be, was his general aggression. I don't know how many of the viewers will be, you know, cognizant of the League of Legends player named Rush that used to play professionally a while ago, but that player was insanely, you know, aggressive as well.
Let's see, we are 10. We have all the heroes dropping down. A lot of damage going on to Garrosh, but with that sustained healing, good positioning from Morales, which she's still not locked in her 10 talent yet. Cammy also steps out, just trusting the team, but the Dragon Knight actually grabbed by KCB. I think Odak was close, but maybe missed a skill shot or something, you know?
And RR definitely know what they have to do. We talked about RR's composition being effective only post level 10, and they get a massive power spike in the terms of what they can do with their composition right when they get their heroes. So they all sort of came to the mid lane as a group of 5 looking to do exactly that. Unfortunately, execution was off.
Here comes the Dragon Knight. The Dragon Knight's about to go down. Morales was trapped for that time, but Genji is gone. They're lacking damage. Sonya is just trying to do what she can, but still very low. I missed the spear already. Cannot really escape. Zoom is not available right now.
It feels like RRR sort of forgot for a second that they did not have access to sound barrier because they used it in the previous team fight, and what they should keep in mind in future team fights is that Lucio Stukov, the only form of true burst healing, of true burst protection against burst and CC that you have, is that sound barrier, because it's not like you have a cleanse, it's not like you have something like an ancestral healing.
So they're going for focus fire onto KCB, but Garrosh just tosses out into the fray. He knows that he's going to survive with the excellent positioning from Morales. This damage is just not enough without Sonya here.
And that presence of mind from Garrosh definitely deserves some compliments there. And Rehgar heading into the 6 o'clock mercenary camp again. And this is only going to get worse as the game progresses. RR really needs to take advantage of what their composition brings to the table in 5v5s through in the form of lockdowns, of bursts, of getting that reset onto Genji. And if they fail to do that, as they have done in the past 2 engages, this could be a rather boring, a rather walk through the park victory for winners.
Winners actually controlling the macro super well, which we did not see in the last Crucible. The Open Division Korean teams lacked on their macro play. Their rotation seems like Winners is actually doing pretty good job, and it is Medivac locked in for 10. Seems like they want to do even more rotational teamwork here, as they will likely to control another set of Shrine right after this big push in the bottom.
Yeah, and to piggyback off your macro comment there, I don't think they're necessarily moving much better than RR across the board as a team, but them having such a huge advantage when it comes to controlling mercenary camps is granting them automatic map advantages, lane advantages that RR is simply not equipped to deal with right now. For example, had it been a Falstad in the place of Stukov in that composition, then they would have a perfectly fine time of dealing with it, but unfortunately that isn't the case right now.
Well, after all those camps, Winners actually lost both Shrines top and bottom. Trying to do something. Here comes the Ancestral Healing onto Gamey, so he will survive, and there's a taunt. Bershka goes onto Genji. That's a lot of damage removed already.
This could be disastrous for RR if they don't manage to get out quickly.
Saves Morales from that. And Odak seems to be going down very soon. Sonya's alone, but Morales, here comes the Medivac! And she will save herself. Let's see how many can actually get in there. Only 2. that's going to be enough. Troll Kim sustaining for a long fight here. Well, Plexia comes into back from Rush. They want to take down a few more. Not much damage actually going in. Troll Kim just having his cooldown on his skills. Tekla will very likely get picked off here. At least he finished his quest.
At least he finished his quest, and it's pretty incredible that the only casualty resulting from that long, drawn-out teamfight was Lucio. So overall, a lot of great mechanical play shown by both teams. Medivac coming at it exactly the right timing. The Entomb was on point. And Garrosh, we talked about Gimme.
Yes, Gimme.
Like, he's on fire. He's controlling this game as a whole.
Ooh, HCB maybe caught from the Poison Spear. The silence comes in. Ooh, but he does get away.
Oh, man.
And they lost the Dragon Knight too, so I thought they had to go for the kill at least. This is becoming a big EXP lead for winners now. 2 entire level lead.
So overall, the story of this game seems to be from level 1 onwards up until this point that, you know, RR have the right sense of what to do. They picked a sensible composition that's right in the meta at the moment. They know what they need to do, but the problem is that they continuously fail a bit at actually doing it. Their execution is off. And generally, if your execution is off with a composition such as Solo Tank and Uberak and Lucio Stukov, it's not going to look pretty, and it isn't looking pretty right now.
Charge onto Uberak will be coming in from the side to land on a Cocoon, most likely onto Morales once more, but I think it's also the positioning of winners and how Gamey is saving Morales all the time into the Frey talent.
I mean, it's definitely coming into power now. What we talked about when winners drafted Garrosh and Medic in the first rotation of the draft. They are very good at dealing with positional mistakes, whether that be from your team or the opposition team. And so far, both of these two heroes have been used to amazing effect in this game.
They could not invade the camp, but they at least had to get a kill. Gets a Rhaegar here, but Leoric is already pushing the top. The camp is going. At least they got a kill. They have to take the advantage, try to take control of the 6 o'clock. But winners actually making a move. Maybe not. I thought they were going to invade the siege on the other side, which could have been worked nicely for them. But they just do not know exactly where the entire team of RR is at the moment.
So overall, that one pick might not look huge, but overall, in the terms of how this game was going, the overall flow of this game, I think it's absolutely massive, particularly considering the fact that winners will not be able to gain a huge advantage in the mercenary camp battle as they used to. Sonya will have ample time to clear out the top one, and RR taking the 6 o'clock camp right now isn't that important in terms of what they will actually do in terms of pushing, but denying that from winners and wresting back some map control that way, it's going to be huge when it comes to the Altor phase.
Let's see, the Altars will be coming in online, and Sonya's already controlling the top. Let's see how winners wants to rotate this one out. They're looking for a possible bait here.
And something else to think about is that whenever there's a medevac, there always is the possibility of some insane high-risk, high-return rotational plays using the medevac to suddenly transport to the other side of the map. So looking forward to seeing some of that in the late game here.
Maybe possible potential of backdoor. Seems like they don't even need the medevac to go backdoor. They're trying to pressure in to the bottom keep. Here comes a big rotation from RR as a response. They'll be fine with this rotation because they want to take control of the Moon Shrine at the bottom. Moon already dropped it. Perfect sound barrier timing and Ancestral connects, but Demi is alone. No Morales to heal him this time, but the armor is just not enough without the Morales with the healing later on.
This was the exact team fight that RR was looking for when they drafted this composition. Amazing silence goes down onto 2 members.
Lack of damage. Dragon Blade already up, and Sonya could not actually put out decent amount of damage. This rotational play worked out overall for RR. They got the pick. They got the pick, nice cocoon usage, and this execution, as you mentioned, was one of the best one in this game.
They get the Dragon Knight now, and considering the fact that Garrosh won't be up for another 20 seconds, at least until he reaches the Dragon Knight, I'm not too sold on this particular rotation though.
Okay. Kodok had Cocoon. Cocoon was coming back online very soon, but just not in time. They still got the fort, and the Dragon Knight is going to make his push again. This is their this was the very first structure they got, so this is a good comeback mechanics, I guess to say.
6.5 out of 10 comeback mechanics, definitely in work here. They're still on the same talent here, and winners won't be destroying any structures for a while, so they don't need to worry about level 20 for the moment. 2-fort stand with a single Dragon Knight, not too shabby. They might be able to get a third.
See how they want to control this Dragon Knight. They still have 24 seconds more to go, but the thing is for RRR, they have room, they have lots of ways to catch up. The winners may actually hit 20 long time before RRR does, so they're really cautious about that, making slow approaches right now.
Yeah, RR will probably want to back off at this moment. 20 is finally on the horizon. What was that Entomb?
Just to show off your skin, and Gamey is in trouble. Seems like he was trying to save Gamey in a way. There's already Cocoon dropped, but no engage whatsoever right after connecting to it.
But overall, I guess the Entomb didn't do too much in terms of what actually happened. No one exactly died. No other significant heroics were used. But the thing is, this was a slim window of opportunity for winners in the sense that, you know, they had a period of time in which they were level 20 and RR wasn't. And
they're just trying to trade. You know, here's an Entomb. Okay, here's a Cocoon. But of course, this is a big one. They're down in 19, and Sonya gets picked off in top lane.
You know, I want to retract everything I said about that Entomb because that was clearly a ploy to sort of make RR more lenient in terms of, you know, thinking about rotations, because obviously they don't have Entomb. They're not going to look for picks. So it was a setup. It was a psychological setup. The kind you don't really see in HGC. Some next level play coming out of winners here. RR looks shocked.
I guess I was not following their thoughts at the moment. Man.
See, they're so shocked that they're clearly behind the rotations now, and if Lucio gets caught out, that could have been huge. Fortunately, Lucios are very fast when they're running.
And by the time Sonya comes back, when the shrines are online, I think it is about time that RRR will be hitting that 20 mark, and they will be about as even. Of course, one more fort down, but not as much. Late game Dragon Knight, one single Dragon Knight can make the push all the way into the core, so it matters a lot less, I would say, on this battleground.
Yeah, I would agree with you that both teams are pretty much on equal ground here. Medic doing a good job of healing back the hurt minions because all lives matter.
All lives matter, and that's your job as Medic.
That was not a political statement of any kind.
Oh,
and anyone who knows me will probably know what I mean.
Okay, let's see. Cleanse goes on to Greymane, because Greymane has to survive to do the damage. There's an Entomb. Oh, gone already. Good taunt, but so much damage is put out from the 20 Dragon Blade. It's never ending.
It's never ending, and the sound barrier went on at the perfect timing as well.
Nice silence. The heals are coming in, but there's the first kill of the team fight going on to Leoric.
This should be a level 20 Dragon Knight going over to RRR. And I don't know what winners could have done too differently in that fight, so to speak.
Okay, late game damage is really hard to... Okay, of course, the Dragon Knight channeling is much shorter than the Shrine controlling time. So they will get the Dragon Knight. Seems like they want to go straight to the keep, as winners has to make a big rotation to go to the mid lane.
This definitely should be the outer wall, but whether they can take the keep or not will depend on how winners want to approach this situation, because Leoric is already back up because obviously he's Leoric. I thought for a second that maybe you would want to just entomb the Dragon Knight into the range of the keep and just chip off a bit more, because I don't think bunching up close together is on winners' lists of things to do right now. RRR have much more AoE priority right now. Really good silence
This
comes
is a
down
good timing. There's no Dragon Blade. That's the thing. Maybe they just want to take the keep out. Oduk's getting caught. Maybe he does not have Burrow Charge. It seems not.
Oh, that could be disastrous for RRR right now. Really good swipe. Manages to disengage.
Just drops the Cocoon as a panic one. Kong still does not have Dragon Blade. Will just strip strike out. Maybe MSG will get caught after this Dragon Knight.
It's really important for RRR to not lose any more members after this. Their respawn timers are really long. It's 20 minutes into the game now.
And they're making the engage, and Sonya wants to turn this things around, and Gami's doing some damage. Here comes the Dragon Knight.
MSG going for the 1v4 in the backline and manages to do that as well. Ancestral sort of wasted. Really good sound barrier keeping MSG alive for a couple of more seconds.
But all they have to do is keep Greymane alive. That's their main source of damage. And even Leoric in the front lines, it stays alive. The silence has been working somewhat, but lack of damage oftentimes is the problem for RRR. Seems like having one great hyper carry Greymane for winners is working a lot better during the team fight.
And usually, you're the first ones to be a little bit more critical of Decalook compared to other players, and it could be argued, in fact, that he had been RR's main problem throughout most of Phase 2, but today, his Lucio play is on point. His sound barriers have been carrying a lot of team fights, including that last one, which managed to save Sonya. And overall, they're now sitting at not an equal footing anymore.
Yeah, they got the keep, so they will be having control. Oh, it's a mid lane, so a little bit less compared to the top and bottom. But still, they got the first keep of the game. They will be it's a lot easier to control the macro because once you have to push in one lane at least.
Overall, RRR might be tempted to go for the straight bottom lane push here. Top lane being pushed in from the mercenary camp. Mid lane being pushed because they only have the keep.
Let's see as these rotations comes in. RRR just trying to control the fort. I think they want to push into the fort because they just have the space. They have some time to take the structure down and also to just harsh back home and clear that giant wave on the top lane.
This is an opportunity for winners to be super proactive with their medevac, I think. They definitely want to do that. Particularly so because RR so far has been mainly using the Cocoon on the medic, not the Regar. So that means that generally speaking, you probably don't really need the medevac if you're not planning to split your team off into 2s and 3s. So I would really like to see winners attempt to make a huge rotational play with that heroic, but let's see which approach they decide to go with. It's so high risk, high regard that, you know, in the Crucible, in such an important match as this, teams naturally become a bit more timid. We're seeing that tendency in both teams right now.
Yeah, passive rotations, exactly what we saw from the HGC playoff. We saw lots of passive rotations, safe plays, especially at the late game. Almost 25 minutes in. One mistake will basically cost you a game here. So they're going slow. It's not the screen didn't freeze. As you can see, the minions approaching each other.
Maybe they all lagged out.
You can even just tell the intensity right here. It's so intense. They're hiding in the bushes.
No, Genji is challenging one of them to do a 1v1
just like the
in the mid lane. Yeah, 1v1 in the mid lane.
You get baited by Garrosh.
So I think Greymane is the one chosen, right? Oh, but Genji runs away.
Genji runs away, scared of the wolf.
Oh, what a coward.
You're talking about wolf, right?
What? No.
Well, Genji. Oh, Genji. Well, it's kind of desperate. Genji doing wave clear. You can tell how desperate they are.
Oh, this is going to be some action now? Or is it not?
Let's see. Some poking comes
The
out.
Nubarak going in for the flank now. In the right position to make things happen.
Poison spell coming out, but so much healing. Notice the positioning of Morales. It's oftentimes just always the best. It's not really too hard to make an approach, but here's a taunt on the Genji. Genji blows up! The silence comes in a single tiny second late. Even Odak and MSG will dive in, but I don't know if they had the damage to get any kills here.
Amazing playmaking coming out from Gamey, who has been controlling the flow of this match so much for winners. That could have been the game carrying play right now. Winner are going in. They don't have Entomb or anything.
Yeah,
so
they don't have anything else, but they still have Ancestral, and they're like all 80% plus HP right now.
Oh, but
the
look
Morales.
at the mid lane. A lot of stuff pouring in right now.
They're pushing it, so they need to make this speedy. Try to poke and do as much damage to the keep as possible.
They will manage to get the keep. I'm not sure if they can make a rush for the core. Instead, they would rather just go waltz around in the bottom half of the map and take all 3 mercenary camps. I believe that will be possible.
It's kind of funny. Seokang is just like, peace? Guys, I'm out! Seems like a cocoon is about to drop. So, peace, guys! And he just uses that medivac. I guess it's working a lot better than Stimdrone in this case. And that mid push is finally getting there. Somewhat 2 catapults. Seems to be on the core, but here comes the engage from RRR. They are slowly approaching this as some damages are coming in. Not dropping the sound barrier yet, as Kong is looking for that timing to swing his blades. Comes the lower charge from the toss away from Garrosh, but he wants to have the taunt onto Genji once more, but the great sound barrier this time now. A great slash is coming in from Genji. They are onto a chase, but is Morales going to be okay here? Let's see. Medivac comes in time, but it will be just tanking a little bit more. Does escape! What a great play by Morales.
Great execution from...
Ancestral connects on the Troll Kim, and Greymane is going to do massive damage. Genji goes down, Lucio went down already, and Rehgar is looking for a kill. This is a disaster. This is going to be game over.
Unbelievable presence of mind for winners to just go in for the play like that. And RRR, Kong had to forget about the fact that Greymane still had go for the throat up, right? It's very difficult to imagine that he still had that up. But Troll Kim knew exactly how much damage he could do in that situation. And although he had low health, he probably shouted out to Rehgar, Ancestral Me, and goes in just like that, wins the game. Beautiful play coming out from winners, really. And
clutch Ancestral there. Made the super play. Morales surviving, actually tanking that much of damage also. The level of play we're seeing coming out from winners is crazy, and they take game number 1. And it seems like someone pressed the ESC button a little bit too fast, but they take game number 1, and this is already an upset for RRR. I'm pretty sure they find themselves quite puzzled after game 1.
I'm actually really surprised by how winners won that game, more than the fact that winners won that game, because as we were talking about, tonight's series was probably going to be a bit more competitive than the Crucible matches we saw earlier in Korea in the last phase. But how winners won that match, it wasn't, abusing a certain egregious mistake from RRR. RRR played most of that match pretty well, especially in the late game. It was just that winners were better, and several times over and over, especially from Gamey, amazing mechanical plays, just looking for those opportunities. These are the marks of star players, not just pretty good players that deserve to compete in the Crucible, but star players that we are used to seeing in HGC. So this, I don't know, these kinds of small plays gave me a lot of hope for winners.
I think they had to consider about Garrosh Ban here, as that is one of his best one. Not just to Sonya. Of course, Sonya is very good, but Sonya didn't really make a crazy play in that game number 1. If you are considering about which solo lane to take, I think Garrosh is also a pretty good one, even to consider about banning instead of Brightwing this time.
I mean, that game sort of reminded me of what Sign had told me, Sign from Tempest, obviously, about Garrosh when he was first released into HGC, and he was seeing a lot more use than he currently does. And what Sign told me was that Garrosh's kit isn't exactly too exciting or actually too good, but the thing is that when you're not accustomed to playing against this on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, you sort of forget about how to position yourself against that Garrosh, and that leads you to making so many mistakes, and it oftentimes leads to a free win. And although the last team fight of the game didn't start with Garrosh, the circumstances leading up to that team fight involved Gamey picking off Kong to start off everything. So
yeah, those taunts there was a buff a long time ago, and it seems like that buff, the 0.5 second, is just enough. The 2-second taunt is enough to delete Genji when that deflect is not on. That's how they really started their own late game snowballing, by having that Genji picked off and getting the key right after. That was great. The mid lane push with the catapult, actually I saw it on the minimap, didn't get close to the core. The first one went down, second was there for some time, and the minion actually pushed it off the rails there. So the mid lane is not really quite as effective compared to the other lane, like the top and the bottom. So RRR could not really make a big macro play, big macro around merry-go-round, so that winners had to really deal with. They didn't have to deal with anything because it was the mid lane key that they brought down.
And if we think about just in general how the entire game went, we were questioning Winner's decision to ban Uther in the second rotation and not use that to counter Genji, because that's usually how a lot of HGC Korea teams deal with Genji. They just pick up the Uther whenever it is available. But Winners in this game pretty much showed that as long as, there isn't a cleanse on the enemy side, one Garrosh is enough to deal with a Genji. And I believe that RR sort of dug a hole for themselves by going blindly, perhaps a bit, into the Lucio Stukov. And overall, their execution of the standard L5 composition, the Lucio Stukov, one carry, an Uberak solo tank, it was pretty good, but it wasn't good enough to throttle Winners out of this win.
Yeah, oftentimes when Morales was healing one target, of course, only one target is available at every single time. But okay, we're talking for such a long time because there's technical esports term for this in Korea. It's toilet issue, and players are taking some time after that intense game number one. Maybe the nerves went down a little bit, but to go back to my point, when Morales can heal one, when the other target is not being healed, of course, chain heal will do less heal onto primary target now with the balance change, but you do have ancestral healing, and oftentimes, even just for the safety, when Greymane had half or lower than half every single time, that ancestral was on Greymane. So having Greymane alive, knowing what they have to hyper carry, just knowing the target, having their job, seems like they had this comp really practiced with the double support.
And overall, I have to say that I have been impressed with all four support players playing this game. A lot of the times it was their abilities and their ability usage that were dictating the results of these team fights. And, I can't really remember any huge mistake that any of them did, apart from some mediocre ancestral healings, which aren't that big of a deal, to be honest, when you're playing double support. So, very impressive from both teams. This is a higher level of play than I honestly expected to see going into this Crucible match.
Yeah, that is right. And oftentimes, of course, if you're playing Greymane, if you're that below half, if you do not get ancestral, you're kind of worried, if I go in, am I getting ancestral or am I just going to die? So having that ancestral early sometimes helps as a player to just engage in, to just put out the maximum damage when you have the cooldowns back. And that's the kind of play we saw from Hyper Carry from Winners. Game 1, Greymane, I thought they would also be lacking damage, but the sustain was enough. Even Leoric does tons of damage after the rework, and Gemi making the super plays. Also, not just saving his allies, also cutting down the opportunity when Anubarak was sometimes trying to come in, but those Groundbreaker actually delayed the timing just by a little bit, so all the supports in the back line have some more time to react to his Burrow charge, and the Cocoons coming in Gammy was definitely the MVP for game number 1.
I would definitely agree with that assessment. And, thinking about what's going to go on in game number 2, I think that RR have to really try to remember what made them an impressive team even in HGC in the first place, because it was really all about their rotations, right? Their sense of how to play the map, when to engage, and usually that was enabled by putting at least one of the players with global mobility, right? Usually it would be either Valstad or Abathur, played by EZZ. Sometimes we went even further and saw some crazy Zagara plays from Kong.
Yes.
And a lot of Dehaka as well. So overall, I think that the main edge that RR has over winners is that kind of macro play, and they should return to that, lest they get stuck in a 2-0 situation.
Yep, but we did talk about enough